Hey guys, it's Bethany with ABQ Creations here with another tutorial for you. Today I'm going to show you how to do a knit stitch and a purl stitch. I'm also going to show you how to do a long tail cast on, which gives it a nice stretch for your base. And I will show you how to do a knitwise cast off. All you'll need to follow along with this tutorial is some yarn. I'm using the Bernat Maker Home Decor yarn, a pair of knitting needles, scissors, and a needle for weaving in your ends. Let's get started. In order to do a long tail cast on, you first need to figure out how much of a tail length that you need, because you're going to be, to start your cast on and start your stitches, you're going to need to work up with using your tail and your working yarn. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how much yarn we need. I'm going to leave a little extra hanging off just for that extra added insurance that we'll have enough. So what we do then is we're just going to wrap it around as many times as we want stitches. So I'm going to do 12 stitches for my swatch. So I'm going to wrap it 12 times. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know I need at least this much yarn. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our end, our tail, and we're going to cross it over the working yarn. And then we're going to pull the working yarn through this loop and tighten down. That gives us a slip knot. So now we're going to place that on our needle, and this will become our first stitch. So now to do a long tail cast on, like I said, we're going to be working with both threads here. So we want to take our bottom 3 fingers and kind of grip down. You know, we need to have some tension here, so we're going to hold that. Then we're going to come through the back with our thumb and our index finger. So we're going to form like this diamond shape. Next, we want to take our needle. We want to come in front of our thumb, and we're going to go up through this loop. We're going to come over to our index finger. We're going to put our needle between these 2 sections of yarn, and then we're going to pull that back through by our thumb. So we're going to pull that down tight, and there is our first cast on stitch. So we have 2 stitches on now. So again, we're going to form that diamond. We're going to bring the needle down by our thumb and go up. We're going to bring it over by our finger, and we're going to come through those 2 threads and bring it back under the thumb and pull it tight. So again, we're going to go under here, over to grab the yarn from here and pull that through that thumb loop. So we have 4 stitches on, and we're going to continue on until we have 12 stitches. There we go. We now have 12 stitches on our hook, and you can see that it's a nice stretchy base. That's why I like this cast on method. It looks a little tricky at first, but once you get it down, it's actually really nice so that you have a nice stretch to your fabric once it's completed. Now we get to pick up our second needle. So all we do is we pass our our work over to our non-dominant hand, in this case my left, and we're going to start knitting. So in order to do a knit stitch, you have to know how you're inserting your needle. So we're going to go in through here on this stitch. So you can see I'm going to put the needle in. And for a knit stitch, you have to have your working yarn behind your work. For purl, it'll be in front. Okay, so we're going to kind of cross, make an X with our needles. We're going to take our yarn, our working yarn, make sure you don't accidentally grab what's left of your tail. We're going to take our working yarn and come under this back needle and come up and over it, and then we're going to pull it through this stitch, just like that. Now we have to slide off just this stitch. We want to get this off our needle. So we're going to go like that. And we just did our first knit stitch. Now the sides are always going to be a little bit looser, so I always like to tighten those down pretty good. But the rest of the project should work up a little easier. So we're going to insert our hook again into this next stitch. We've got this X going, and we're going to come behind our work here and under the needles, and then come between that X that we made with our needles. Now we want to pull this stitch through the stitch that's on the left needle already. Then we're going to slide it off the needle. We now have 2 knit stitches. We're going to continue this all the way across. And you have to be careful. You want to make sure that you don't lose any of your knit stitches. You don't want them to fall off your needle. It's probably the most frustrating part about knitting versus crochet. But once you get used to it, it gets a little bit easier as you go along. Okay, now we're to this last stitch, so we're going to work through like this. Just like before. Now we can turn our work over into our left hand again. So now this is what we have on the back of our work. You see these little bumps. Those are purl stitches. So we know we have to purl on this side if you want all knit on one side and all purl on the other. So that's what gives us this look. These are purls. If you go to this side, this is what the knit looks like. It forms little V's. So now we know we need to have our working yarn to the front of our needle. And instead of inserting like this, like we did with knitting, we're also going to insert our hook our needle differently. So we're going to come in through the front of your work like this. Okay? So now what we do is we want to wrap our yarn over like this and kind of hold it down. This can get a little tricky, but we want to then pull the stitch through like this and slide that first stitch off. There, that's our first purl. So again, we have our working yarn to the front. We're going to insert that needle. We're going to come around like this. Okay, and then we want to slide it through and off the needle. There's 2 purl stitches. And then we're just going to continue across our work. Try not to get your tension too tight. It can get a little nerve-wracking when you're switching up. Oops. So you will have to work into these stitches on the way back, so you want to make sure it's not too tight. Try to stay a little further away so you can see it. Okay. Nope. Okay, our last stitch, we're going to complete our purl like so. Slide them down a little bit so you can start to see what's forming here. So again, we just keep switching it back to our left hand when we're done with a row. And now we're going to do another row of the knit stitch. So all we're going to do is just keep working the same pattern back and forth to end up with one side that has all knit stitches and the other side that will have all purl stitches. So I'm going to work up a little swatch and then I will come back to show you how we finish it off with a knitwise cast off. So I'm going to finish, my last row will be a purl row, and then when I come back on camera I'll show you how to finish it off on this knit row. I now have my little swatch completed and I'm ready to do a knitwise cast off. So to start your cast off, you're going to begin just like you are knitting. So you're going to do a knit stitch, you're going to do another knit stitch, and then instead of continuing on with your knitting, you're going to take your first stitch on your needle and you're going to pull it over your second stitch on your needle. So you have to be careful not to lose your stitch. But that's your first cast off. So you have one stitch remaining. So again, we're going to knit, we're going to do another knit stitch. And then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to take the first one on the hook, and while holding your yarn, you're going to pull it over. So we're just going to continue this across where we keep doing another knit stitch, and then we take the first stitch on the needle and pull it over the new stitch. Now you want to be kind of careful because you don't want your bind off to be too tight, like mine's probably going to be right now. So you want it to be a little bit stretchy. So try not to pull it down too tight. And I like to pull these down a little bit on this needle while I'm working it, just so that I know those stitches stay on that needle. So see, you can see the top forming the nice little V's that go across. Okay, so for our last stitch, this is how we're going to do this. Whoops. Put that needle down now. Okay, so now we're left with one stitch. And how we want to do this is we want to pull up just a little bit, give it some slack. So for you crocheters, it might look a little bit familiar. But now we're just going to cut off our end. And we're going to take our tail and we're going to make a little knot. So we're going to come back through our loop. We're going to pull it down tight and we have a little knot. Now all we have to do is just weave in our ends and it's complete. So that is how you knit and purl. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to knit and purl. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me down below. And let me know if you're a fellow crocheter who also enjoys knitting on the side. Do you prefer knitting or crocheting? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all my current patterns and projects. And if you'd like to view my written patterns, you can go to www.abcutecreations.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.